Hi, I'm Tom Loucks, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media Coordinator for the City of Wisconsin Rapids. And today my guest is David Gorski. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Tom.
Alrighty, David. Well, you're the Democratic candidate seeking election for the Wisconsin State Assembly, and that is District 72. And we're going to get to know you a lot better over this time period. We have 15 questions, and this is for the general election on November 6th, 2018, not too long from now. So I'm going to turn it right over to you, Dave, and I want to know a little bit about yourself and your family, if you would share that, and also share that to our viewers.
Sure. So regarding my family, I don't have much of an extended family here in Wisconsin. My sister lives in Eau Claire. I'm very proud of her. She's an artist. She recently won Best of Show at Art West in Eau Claire. It's a big deal. She also does art on the bus for the city. She takes pictures of elementary art and posts it on the buses around Eau Claire. And she has her own business, Da Vinci's Workshop, and she teaches art classes to young people, probably 6th grade and below, on Saturday and after school. And she's also a substitute teacher in Eau Claire. And then I have my wife passed away in 2015 from Alzheimer's. It was a rough one. Yeah, she was diagnosed. She was working at the university. She got her undergraduate and her master's degree. She came from Chile. She's a Chilean woman, was a Chilean woman. And she graduated with honors, and she went on to get her master's degree. They hired her as the multicultural outreach specialist. She worked there for 9 years until she was diagnosed. And then after she was diagnosed, about 1 year later, I retired as early as I could at 55. I stayed home and I took care of her until she passed away. She died in her home with me on one side and her son on the other, and her dog's on her bed.
Oh, I'm sorry you had to go through that.
It was hard, tough. But you know, we say for better or for worse, until death do we part, right?
That is right.
Sickness and health. Well, and I'm proud of myself. But I have a stepson, Matthias, from her previous marriage. He's a great guy. Also graduated from UWSP as a foreign student. And then he's married to Maria Jose, beautiful woman. And I have 2 grandchildren. They live in Chile now, and in a little town called Santo Domingo de los Rocas. You wouldn't want to be there during a tsunami.
No, and I don't want to say that name no matter what.
But yeah, and he actually came back to the United States when in kind of the last 2 years when his mom was sick, and he studied at UW La Crosse and got his master's in business administration. And he now works for a seafood company in Chile and comes to the United States all the time selling seafood, mainly to the coast.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah.
Wow, you maybe get some special seafood that most people don't get.
I get a good deal on clams.
Yeah, I get a good deal. Yeah. Well,
I haven't seen any clams yet. But
no, and I ain't never had clams.
But I have 2 grandchildren. Sarita, which is really Sarah, and Leon, and I think they're like, I want to say they're 6 and 9, something like that. Yeah.
Wow. Well, you're going to be busy with a lot of family life. That's great.
Well, they're in Chile, so. But I have a big extended family in Chile, so and they all love me. So in the dead of winter, when I'm old and crippled up, I'm just going to fly down there. Stay in their houses, have them feed me and everything, and stay out of because the seasons are opposite.
You're right.
Yeah.
So right now it's like going into their spring.
Yeah,
in a way.
It's springtime, and in November, well, they have all kinds of festivals in the parks there. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'd love to go to South America area and that.
Chile's an interesting place.
But that's a ways away, and maybe someday I'll get a chance to go down there and stuff. But
it's a long flight. But just a little bit about my background. I grew up on the south side of Milwaukee in a neighborhood where everybody spoke Polish. We actually made Polish sausage at home, took it to the Catholic Church to get blessed.
I've not heard that one.
Yeah, well, that's my neighborhood. And I graduated from St. Vincent de Paul. Elementary, middle school. And I went to Milwaukee Tech High School. It was Boys Tech when I started. And we changed the name during my junior year because we took girls. It was all boys. But anyway, I graduated from there. Great high school. I was a wrestler. No one ever beat me in the city of Milwaukee. I was 47-0-1. I'm proud of
Wow.
that. Yeah, I'm proud of that. I did take 5th in state my senior year,
Okay.
and you know, it's just in the city of Milwaukee and outside in the suburbs,
Yeah.
it's different because kids in the suburbs get experiences younger than we did. But anyway, I studied after I graduated. I actually spent some time in Florida, but I studied physical education and health education at La Crosse. Graduated in '83, went to Bolivia in '85, worked there for 3 years as an elementary physical education instructor, and also I was the director of our sports facility. So I did that at night. We had racquetball, we had indoor swimming pool, 25 meters, outdoor lighted tennis. It was a really nice facility. So I was there for 3 years in La Paz.
Wow, you had a chance to see a lot of the southern world that we live in.
Yeah. And then later, then I came back and I graduated from UW Superior with my master's degree in K-12 school counseling. That's when I went to Chile and met my wife.
Okay.
And I went there for 2 years, came back, she followed me, and she started her undergraduate work.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And did that get you here then to the
It
Nakusa
got me
area?
to Nakusa because I had a little cabin up in Spooner, and I just applied all over the place. And Pete Pavlovsky said, "I'll meet you in Eau Claire." So I met him in Eau Claire, and he hired me. And then I went. I didn't even see Nakusa until I got there. I was So,
That's
but
fine,
I love the town. I love the town in Nakusa.
Yep.
I never experienced such a close community.
Great.
Everybody came out to the football games, the basketball games. I thought the kids were great. I thought the teachers were great.
Mm-hmm.
It was a wonderful opportunity for me because it was a small school, and I got a chance to do a lot of things there as far as changing policy. I worked on the discipline policy at the middle school. I helped start the alternative program, the Nakusa Academy, which has been going on for 15 years now.
Strong.
I wrote the proposal. I proposed it to the school board, and then I wrote a grant for $225,000 to expand it in the second year. And that grant focused on making sure our kids were employable when they graduated. And I'm happy to say many of those students are going on to Mid-State or going in the world of work, and they're being real successful.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's you had as being a counselor a chance to really work with the students and get them where maybe they want to go, because they're going to come and talk to you and have a that's a great position.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, you've been switching gears here in the last few years. Last time you in 2016 had run as well.
Yeah.
And you're running this year for that District 72 in the Wisconsin State Assembly. So we're going to talk a bit about that. And so first question, I'm just going to go down the list that I have for you, is a lot of people, when you say districts and voters, they really don't even know sometimes the district they live in.
Yeah.
And for our viewers that are watching, I want to kind of go geographically speaking. District 72 is comprised of Rapids residents, but where Wood County, can you just give us a little bit of that?
All right, so we got Burin, we got all of Wisconsin Rapids, we have Port Edwards, the city of Port Edwards, not Nakusa.
Okay.
And then we have the town of Grant, which is actually in Portage County. Yep. And then there's Saratoga. There's Grand Rapids, and can't miss one, right?
No, well, it can happen. There's a lot there.
And Adams County of Saratoga. Can't miss that one. I get a lot of support out of Saratoga. Okay. So, but then going down Highway 13 all the way to County Highway J, which is right before you go into Adams Friendship. Okay. Yep. And then going east to Coloma. All the way over there. And then also Watoma. Okay. And Plainfield is also in the district. Bancroft and Bangkok. Yeah. Bangkok. Okay. Croft and Bangkok. All those.
Oh, there's a lot there.
Yeah, it's rural. It's rural, and then Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Rapids area is where most of the voters are.
Well, that changed not too long ago. Is that right? Did that redistrict?
Well, they gerrymandered it. Basically, they went east, picked up a lot of Republican votes, and then cut off Adams Friendship, which would have been leaning more Democratic. So now it's kind of a leaning. It's a leaning right District.
You know, someday, you know, you hear about that may get redistricted and things get changed, but
Yes.
Until then, we'll see what happens and go from there. All right, well, that gives our voters an idea of where and who you represent, because if they have the questions, this is the time to reach out to you or your volunteers of your campaign to call you, right, and talk to you, and you want to answer those questions.
You can go to my Facebook page. I have a website, but I haven't been doing that much with it. I use Facebook a lot. They can message me. They can friend me.
Okay.
On my literature, I have my cell phone number, I have my email address, and my Facebook page.
Okay, so that's out on Facebook. Anybody will has access to that if they use Facebook.
Please look me up on Facebook.
Yep, or on a website. Your website is available too, and they can Google your name.
I've had a little trouble with my website.
Okay.
So it should be up and running.
Yep, I actually reviewed it last night.
Oh, did you?
Yep, everything was there that I wanted to see.
Oh, was it? Okay, maybe it's better than I think. I always use Facebook.
Yeah, I just Google your name and away it goes. Up it comes, and I can see your Facebook or wherever you want, wherever, and you probably will be able to Google it and find this video as well for the election, before the election. So,
great.
Well, let's go on to the next question. We have quite a few questions, but we're in absolutely no rush. We want to make sure that we provide.
Because I tend to speed up towards the end.
No, I'm not putting a time limit. It's 15 questions, and if we want to be here for 2 hours, we'll be here for 2 hours. But that's up to you and how you answer the questions.
Hopefully not 2 hours.
No. Well, the Family Center was here an hour and a half already today.
Oh, really?
So
well, I'll try to do an hour and 31 minutes just to top them.
All right. Well, let's talk about this question here. How do you feel our local schools are doing? Are they providing a solid education for our children today? Anywhere from elementary up to the high school. So I'm not looking at the college level, I'm just kind of looking at the public school system, which is, gets funded by some of the taxpayer money versus a assumption or a private school.
Well, I can tell you, I worked for Nakusa for 18 years, and then afterwards, because I retired early because my wife got sick, but I've been substituting. I work for the Wisconsin Rapids District now as a homeowner, so I'm very still connected with the public schools. I worked for 2 years ago, I think it was, I worked for Nakusa. They hired me they called it a behavioral interventionist, and I worked with some kids that were having some struggles there. So I have firsthand experience with the schools. I was a high school counselor for Nakusa for 6 years, and I can tell you this, that every year I was there, we had kids that could go to the Ivy League. They blew the socks off the ACT. I know once we had one student that had a perfect score, 36. I know a lot of other kids that had 33, 34, 35. Those scores will get you anywhere in the country. So, and we had excellent teachers. And as long as we offer AP classes, as long as we hire really good teachers, our students are going to do just fine. Now, not everybody works that hard. Not everybody wants to take the tougher classes. That's why we need technical education classes too, hands-on classes. I learned this in school, becoming a school counselor, that interest is based on experience. So I know we're going to talk about workforce development later, right? But okay, all those people out there who care about workforce development, we need to make sure that we have good technical programs in our middle schools and in our high schools to give kids those experiences. Working with electricity, working with wood, working with metal, working with machines, working with computer-aided drafting, computer-aided machining. When kids get to do that, they go, wow, I like doing this. And so the next thing you know, they're going to Mid-State for it or some other technical college, and that helps our workforce. So we want to make sure that all of our high schools throughout Wisconsin have good opportunities for technical education. So let me just tell you this. Nakusa, I studied the test scores there because I helped do the testing, and I always got the test scores, and I met with kids. I always looked at their scores to see where they were at. And I could tell you, in most ways, Nakusa was an average school in the state. Average. Maybe a little higher in some years, maybe a little lower in some years. But I told you, we had kids that could go to the Ivy League. So in an average school in the state of Wisconsin, if you can send kids to the Ivy League, schools are doing pretty good. Let me tell you something else. Okay, I subbed around Rapids the last 2 years, and I subbed at Woodside. And I don't know if you know about Woodside, but they have a lot of kids with disabilities. I was there one day. I was really impressed. They had one student that was on a feeding tube with an aid, with an aid. And there was another school that another student that was on oxygen, and other students in the room that had severe disabilities. And I am so proud of our public schools because and I learned this a while ago. All children can develop. Everybody can develop. They just need the opportunity. So I don't care if the best you can do is maybe lift the pencil up. We help kids go from there. And that's the thing about public education. We have to protect it, Tom. Well, we can't let public education be privatized. And that is something I'm very worried about.
Yeah.
Because we see it in other places. In the city of Philadelphia, the public schools that are left there, because so many have been taken over by private schools, they're overcrowded. Some of them don't have art. They don't have technical education. They don't have music. We don't have music. Can you imagine that? Oh, yeah. I don't want that to happen to the state of Wisconsin. If you go to the city of Milwaukee, my high school was an excellent high school. 505 graduates from Milwaukee Tech. Everybody walking out the door had a job. I was in machine shop. I wasn't actually that good.
Right.
But we had, just being honest. But we had a 5-year plumbing class. Well, we had an aero class where they make a plane every 2 years and the instructor would fly it. We had an electronics class, electricity. We had a chemistry program there. You spent 3 or 4 hours in chemistry your junior, senior year. These kids went to Marquette and blew the socks off the pharmaceutical program.
Oh, that's
okay,
great.
But we graduated 505. Last I heard they're graduating 130. That's a shame. The public schools in Milwaukee have been hurt by all of these parental choice voucher schools. And I want to say one thing. I'm just going to give you an example here, and this is why I think we really need to look at this program. Okay, there's a school in Milwaukee, and there's a lot of these failing parental choice schools in Milwaukee. Here, we have Assumption and we have Manuel Lutheran. They're great schools, but that's not true in Milwaukee. Okay, one school, the Clara Muhammad Islamic School, and I'm not bringing it up because it's an Islamic school. I'm bringing it up because of this test scores. So I was just at the Wisconsin Public Education Network Summer Conference, and there were 2 black women from Milwaukee who talked about this school. Okay, 2011, 125 students. Guess how many tested proficient? 1. 1 in math, and I don't think anybody in reading. And so I went home and I looked that school up. I looked at their 2017 scores. The best thing about that school, instead of having 125 kids, it only had 100 kids. And you know how many kids tested proficient in math in 2017? 0. So you know what I did, Tom? I called the DPI. I called the Parental Choice Program there. It's Charter Schools and Parental Choice Program. And I talked to Corbin, is his name. And I posed this question to him. I said, Corbin, okay, the Clara Muhammad Islamic School in Milwaukee. 1 kid proficient in 2011, 0 in 2017. I said, Corbin, why is this school still open? And that's a question we should all be asking because our tax dollars are going there. And you know what the answer is? He told me there is no mechanism that the DPI has for closing down these poorly performing parental choice schools. They can't do it. If nobody ever learns to read there, they can't close it down. And it's just not these kids aren't scoring proficient. They're not scoring basic, which is the level down. They're scoring minimal, which means they're learning almost nothing. And here's the other side of it. Those people that run those schools can pay themselves as much as they can get away with. There are schools there, they have maybe 200 kids, 250 kids. They're paying themselves salaries like our principals make here. The superintendent, there's one school, I don't remember the name of it, but it's in my neighborhood in Milwaukee, 900 students, kind of a big school. But I think it was in 2011, the administrator there paid herself $211,000. I mean, where is the accountability?
Yeah, there needs to be some change in that area.
Definitely, we need to study it.
And ultimately, that is done by officials.
And I asked Corbin, why is it like this? And you know what his answer is? Talk to your state legislators, because they made the laws. Why did they make the laws that way? I'm going to be honest with you, Tom. They're all taking money from the American Federation for Children, which Betsy DeVos used to chair, and the American Federation for Children, along with ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council. They meet behind closed doors with our legislators, and they make these laws, you know, like right to work, overturning the prevailing wage, and all of these voucher things. Yeah. They came from there. They didn't come from the people of Wisconsin. You know what I want to see, Tom? I want to see the public brought in. You know, once the original law was made to have the statewide taxpayer-funded voucher program, every other law regarding governing the parental choice program in Wisconsin was done in the state budget. It was done in the dark, behind the backs of voters. You know how much you pay for private school vouchers here in Wisconsin?
I don't.
Well, and you won't. You know why? Because it's not on your tax bill. It's hidden as a public school expense. And there is a referendum that's going around the state, a resolution that's going around the state to take that money that goes to private schools and show how much it is. And it's going up every year because that's the way the program is set up. Don't get me wrong. I am not against private schools. I went to a private school.
Okay.
And when I was a counselor, we read scholarships for, then it was the Southwood County Community Foundation. I know how well the kids at Assumption do. I know how well they do at Lincoln and everywhere else. I guess I know I'm spending a lot of time on that. But honest, Tom, you know what I want? I want things to happen in the light of day. I want the public to know. If this is headed to a $1 billion a year program, and the public has not gotten a chance to weigh in.
Yep.
We got to close down the schools that are stealing the future of our black and brown children, mainly in the city of Milwaukee and Racine. We cannot allow this to go on. In the city of Milwaukee, this program's gone on for 27 years. The black kids in the city of Milwaukee have the worst test scores in the country as compared to white children. And not only that, they have some of the worst test scores in the nation compared to all other black people. Why would we continue to steal their education? Really bothers me.
Okay. Yes, so you would really like to help them.
I would like to help them. First of all, let's put the brakes on it.
Yep.
Let's stop opening more and more of these schools that are stealing our money and stealing the education of black and brown children.
You're not helping.
No,
what you're telling
and that was the beginning of it. They said the public schools were failing, and so what we need to do is give them this other opportunity. But what it's turned into is they're just sucking the kids out of the public school, they're making money off of them, and they're not educating them. Again, I'm not saying that's true with Assumption or Emmanuel Lutheran. I know what a good job they do. I don't agree that we fund them, but that's my personal opinion. I think we need to open it up and have a discussion statewide. Do we want a $1 billion program that property taxpayers are paying for? Let's have a discussion. Why is it done in the dark?
You know, and really that's why we're talking about this. We want viewers to know this kind of stuff happens. You asked me, do I pay for that? I don't know. Well, I'll bet you 98% of the other people say the same word.
And and you know what, Tom? That's intentional.
But
they don't want the public.
No, and that's why we are here, public access,
exposing it.
We really want to. We're going to provide it both ways. We're going to. This is not fake news. This is real news. We're providing the real thing.
Right.
So that's why I really enjoy and support what I do to help the public and help people that do believe in it. Well, let's move on to our next question because we have quite a few. Let's talk about roads. Roads are always talked about here, especially in Wood County, maybe even Adams County, maybe even Portage County, since there's some overlap in there. But generally, we'll kind of talk about Wood County because that's the bigger area.
Sure.
People say they're in poor shape. Do you feel that the state what should the state do to help with that, or help counties do that? Is there ways that you have?
I mean, there's some things they shouldn't do. I mean, we put a stranglehold on municipalities. We don't let them raise the revenue that they need to raise to fix the roads. The only money that they can get is through new construction. Now, I know one of the people on the city council there in Port Edwards. I just talked to her. You know, the only new money you can get is new construction. Well, there isn't a lot of new construction in Port Edwards, you know, and the roads are deteriorating. In most municipalities, they'll tell you they have a schedule to fix the roads, but with the money they have, it's going to take them 100 years to fix it. I hear that story over and over again. So let's bring back local control. Let's let communities solve their own problems and not micromanage it from Madison. The other thing I'm going to say, and some people say, oh, there he goes raising taxes. Well, you know what? When your house has a leaky roof, you fix the darn thing, don't you?
Better.
You know, and we got to fix it, you know, and we can't borrow a gazillion dollars. Right. 25% of the transportation budget goes to servicing the debt for the transportation budget. That is a failure in leadership in the state. My opponent, Scott Walker, and all the people in charge over the last 8 years have let our roads go down, and according to, I don't know if it's the road construction industry or whatever, but they got us at second worst in the nation. And so, the roads are really bumpy. So what's happening in a lot of places in these smaller areas where they don't have new construction, they're letting the roads go back to gravel. You know, that's happening in our state. And so we got to bite the bullet. We got to bring in new revenue, or like Scott Walker say, oh, we won't raise taxes. We'll take it from somewhere else. We're going to take it from public education again. You're going to take it from our university system. Are you going to take it from the agriculture and manufacturing tax credit? Are you going to take it from WEDAC? Where are you going to take it from? What I say is, you know, let's raise the gas tax 5 cents or whatever was needed. I don't want to overburden people. I'm not a rich person, but you know, I'm somebody that cares to do my part. Let's raise it whatever is reasonable and needed. Index it to inflation like it used to be, because we can't. You know, we've turned into, at least with transportation, we're a borrow and spend state. My party is often attacked for being tax and spend. Borrow and spend is worse. You know, so this is what I say. Quite simply this, Tom. Okay, fix them first and pay as you pave.
Okay.
Because we cannot borrow $800 million every year or whatever we're borrowing at this time.
So you're a supporter of really trying to maintain what you have too, right? So you don't 10 years down the road get into an area like you haven't maintained. Now you got to spend money, right? Right. Well, that's where we are right now. So you know, it's important to keep what you have, and need to do that now without borrowing and spending money to make
fix them first. And when we need new ones, let's pay for it. Instead of borrowing more and more money.
Yeah, well, we all know borrowing as just on a personal level, not anything to do with politics, can be a scary thing and get people in trouble. Credit card debt is one of the scariest things to some families. So I'm just saying debt in general. So
what about student loan debt?
Yeah, that too.
I'm off the topic, but let me throw this out there. Let me just throw this out there, okay? All right, the state of Minnesota. They have a state program. My opponent would say, oh, you create a state bureaucracy. Yeah, well, and I have a friend that is paying off his son's debt 3.25% in the state of Minnesota. My son has a loan with Wells Fargo's is 0 something. All right, and my opponent said, oh, just walk in a bank and refinance or go to SoFi or these other places. It's not that easy. They pick and choose who they lend to, and then you lose a lot of protections. What I say, let's do something to help the people of Wisconsin. We have $1 billion. No, I'm sorry. Is it up to $29 billion in debt? That's what it is. In student loan debt in the state, affecting 1 million people. I mean, let's help the people of the state. And you know what else we could do if we had our own program with an interest rate like 3.25% or maybe 3.5? Guess what? The state's taking in revenue. So we create a job. So we create an office of 20 jobs. We help all of these student loan borrowers. They could buy a house. They can start a family. They can get a car. You know, they could bring, you know, average student loan debt now is something like $30,000 a year. And if we could bring down the interest rate in half, that'll spur our economy. Why don't we do that? It's a win-win. The state wins because we're taking in 3.5% of $29 billion or whatever. It wouldn't be that much, but it would be some portion of that. Okay. And then we're helping the people of Wisconsin. That's why I'm running. We're doing way too much for the people at the tippy top and not enough for the rest of us. I'm going to try to calm down because I tend
no worries.
once I get wound up, I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, no worries.
But I had to throw that one in there because
yep.
that's an important issue.
Yeah, great. Let's talk a little bit about the big development, Foxconn. It's in the news for the last years, quite a while. I guess want to get your feeling on the whole piece of it.
We've abused eminent domain law. We've called people's land blighted, and that's how they got the land down in Mount Pleasant. I think Mount
yeah,
Pleasant.
I believe so. Yes.
All right, we forego the environmental impact statement. Don't even know what's in the water when they're done using it. We overturn, and now it's statewide, the isolated wetlands law, which a lot of Republicans voted on. We're allowing Foxconn to pump 7 or 9 million gallons a day of Lake Michigan water. Do you know about the Great Lakes Compact?
I've heard about it.
Okay. Well, the Great Lakes Compact agreed to allow Waukesha County to pump water from Lake Michigan, which I think is actually out of the watershed. Okay. So if you're within the watershed, no problem. If you're out of the watershed, you need special permission.
Right.
But so there is a stipulation that can happen if you're using it for residential use. So what Foxconn did is they said it was for residential use because the city of Racine was already using the water. But that's a distortion of that law. So all of that stuff I don't like. And here's the other thing. Okay, you live in Pleasant Prairie, you got a problem, something happened, and you want to sue Foxconn. You know what? You don't go to the county court. You don't go to the next level up, whatever that is in the state. You go directly to the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Who else gets that deal? Why did we do that? To me, we're going around our own democratic process. I think it's wrong. The other thing about it is, and I heard Dana Loucks from Eau Claire said this during his campaign, and I remember it and I repeat it. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the $4.5 billion altogether. I'm going to talk about the original. It was $2.8 billion actually. People rounded up to $3 billion. Okay, so just with the $3 billion, we could have given 10,000 Wisconsin businesses help with $300,000 apiece, and that would have been invested in our own entrepreneurs, our own small businesses. I have a friend that has a small business. He used to manufacture at it's on First Street. I forget.
Here in Rapids?
Yeah, I forget the name of the building. It's like CHR or something like that. I was getting messed up. But anyway, yeah, he was manufacturing there. He actually he moved to Millador. He makes these massage rollers. He makes roller skis. Now he's manufacturing really small wood burning stoves you can take camping, or little bigger ones that if your electricity goes out, he's got a way you can hook it up and keep your pipes from freezing with the smallest stove. Yeah, he's an entrepreneur, and I talked to him. I said, "Do you feel like you're getting help?" No. He's not getting any help. Yeah, he maybe could get a loan or something, but he can already do that at about the same rate. We should be doing more to help our small businesses. Do you know, for 3 years in a row, Wisconsin was last in startup businesses. So we can do a heck of a lot better than that.
Yeah. Well,
did I get off track on that
no,
one, Tom?
but I'm a supporter of small business. I grew up in it. My family's been that big part of it. Myself, I owned a small business, and to me, it's a great piece for family to get involved as well. Oh yeah. And all the small businesses to me in this are what could develop into something. Look at Renaissance. Yeah. There's a prime example.
Yeah, the Paul family.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I agree. Look at I know Jeff Pearl from Pearl Engineering. I had discussions with him. For a while he was trying to get health insurance for his workers. He told me, "I wish we had an option here with Badger Care to buy in." That's another subject, but we can help our small business owners with that. But I know Tim Sanders owns the cinema. I know Tom Scheider, who owned Freedom Carpeting. Maybe I shouldn't be saying all their names, but I have a lot of friends that own small businesses, and they don't feel like they're helped by our state. All the money, and that's the problem I have with Foxconn. That's what we're on here.
Right. Yep.
And so instead of investing in Wisconsinites, we put all our eggs in one basket Foxconn, do you know about all the workers in China jumping out the windows and committing suicide? You didn't know about that?
Well, I've heard about, the way they treat, the employee treatment over there.
Well, you know what their answer was? To put up nets around the outside, so when they jump out, they get caught. Foxconn does not have a good reputation. So we gambled a lot of money on a company that has a poor reputation for employee relationships. They're not known for being big payers either. And pollution-wise, I heard they're bad too. Wow. So we don't even know what's going to be in. It's one thing, are you going to use this 7 or 9 million gallons a day? Okay, and 3 million of it is going to be incorporated in the product. So that's not going back to Lake Michigan. People tell you that there's a lot of water. It's not that big of a deal in Lake Michigan. It may not be. But what I'm concerned is what's in the water we're sending back that way. I know they use benzene to keep their screens clean. Are we going to be on top of them? Well, we've let so much pollution go in the state right now. We've added. Now I'm really getting off, but this is connected. But this is connected to Foxconn.
Yep.
Okay, since Scott Walker has taken office, we've doubled the number of impaired body waters in the state because we have turned our backs on polluters. 700 new bodies of water are on the impair list since Scott Walker's taken office. That has a lot to do with getting rid of the DNR scientists. We're not doing the science we need to do. We're not enforcing the laws. We're turning our backs, and more of our lakes and streams are being polluted, not to mention private wells. So you look at the pattern that's happened under the Scott Walker regime, and then you say, okay, but Foxconn's not going to be a polluter, right? I have a hard time buying it. We needed to invest in Wisconsin businesses, and now that we're kind of stuck with it, I think we need a state legislature that's going to keep a good eye on them, and that's what I'm doing. I'm not saying now we're going to kick them out. I don't know if that's possible. I've heard some politicians say that. I don't want to make giant promises I don't understand. Right. But one thing we need is legislators that are going to protect the workers and protect the environment.
All right. Well, let's switch gears here and talk a little bit about health care. That's always a big deal.
Yes, it is.
And the rates are astronomical.
I know it.
People can't afford it.
I know.
And it's even to the point that you might need to go back to your own business because it's so expensive to pay the rates that are offered by a larger company because they can't afford it. So, what can, if you were to be elected here in the position, is there anything that you or the state legislator can help with this kind of skyrocketing cost?
Well, Citizen Action, I'm on their steering committee here for their northeastern portion here, and they've done a study which shows that if we came up with a Badger Care, this is a 40-year-old, typical 40-year-old male that's on the silver plan now, that there could be a 30% savings if they had a Badger Care buy-in. So that's one thing that we can do. Another thing we need to do, just like I told you about Pearl Engineering, why don't we help our small businesses with a Badger Care plan? Why don't we do that? And this is something that just blows me away, is that the costs are so astronomically high. It seems to me to be vulture capitalism, and my opponent likes to talk about the free market and everything, and I believe it. I believe in free market capitalism, but not when it comes to the point of gouging everyday people. Tom, I've knocked on 3,000 doors. I've had this discussion a lot.
Right.
I've had a discussion with the 75-year-old woman who has cancer for the second time, living in a trailer, a nice one. Her and her husband, they lived their whole life, but they didn't work their whole life, but didn't have enough money to buy the supplemental insurance, stuck with a $25,000 bill for chemo. They can't pay it. The kids that have allergies to EpiPen, we let people buy it, and it's inhuman. We have to control the pharmaceutical companies. We have to say enough is enough. There's a vulture capitalism. You're going to stop gouging people. And maybe we can do that with Badger Care, okay? So, and Citizen Action say we should have a buy-in option for everybody. It's probably a good idea, but you know, I'm a practical person too. I want to make sure if we say that we can actually do it. But so one thing that I think we should start off with though, number one, all businesses. Number two, we should look at those people on the individual market that aren't doing well under Obamacare, because if you're not subsidized, it is too expensive, you know. And so that was wrong with Obamacare. The rich people paid too much for the people who couldn't afford it. But if we had a Badger Care option, we could do better than that. The other thing is for people that fall off the benefit cliff. So, and I know Scott has talked about this, but I think we need to go farther with it, because when my wife was sick and I brought people into the home that I paid to take care of her, a lot of them say, oh, please, Mr. Gorski, don't, I can't work anymore, because if I do, I'll lose my Badger Care, or I'll lose, you know, and the thing is I think that's wrong. I think we should incentivize people to work, but people are so afraid to be caught without health care. I see it over and over again. And even people that have health care. I was in Bancroft, was it? Yeah, I was in Bancroft, and I knocked on a door of a 37-year-old woman. $700 a month premiums for her. I mean, that's ridiculous. You know, and I lived in Chile. Everybody in Chile has health care. It's not perfect. It's not perfect anywhere. But nobody goes bankrupt. This is a third world country. So I don't want to hear that we can't do it. There's too much greed. We need to care and love each other. Care about the least of us. Make sure that people don't starve because they have to buy their pills. It's out of control. And the Walker administration, and the time that Scott Krug's there, they didn't do anything about it. Now they're talking about it. You know, now all of a sudden in an election year they're talking about it. But I don't trust them to get the job done. I think we need to do more in investing in people and less investing in the Foxcons of the world.
All right. All right. Well, if you're just joining us here today, had a chance to sit down here with David Gorski. He's running for the 72nd Assembly position here in our area for the Wisconsin State Assembly. Again, the election, November 6th. Not too far away from now, so we want to provide you as much information so you're educated when you go out to the polls. And voting is just so important. To cast your vote, one vote can make a major difference. So myself, probably David, and I'm sure of it, encourages you to get out and vote.
Please vote, even if you don't vote for me.
Yep. So
I want everybody to register. I want everybody to vote.
Yep. And it is a gift of what we as Americans have.
It's participating in our democracy.
Yep, and I think it's so important. And a shout out to younger people, if they're watching this, kids, civic classes, you need to get involved now. Get involved with your local community first.
A word to the younger folks.
Yep.
If you vote at the first opportunity you can vote when you turn 18, you'll vote for the rest of your life.
Yep. And I think
get out there and do it.
Yep.
And there are a lot of issues that you should be concerned about.
Exactly, and I think if more people were involved, right on the local level, and then work their way up, and I think things would be a lot different in the world of politics today. So, yes. But I won't get onto that. I have to stay somewhat neutral here.
I'll be interviewing you pretty soon.
Yeah. So, our next question I want to talk about is partisan politics. And, you know, it's gotten so different with the Republican versus the Democrat. We hear it today with President Trump. And really, it seems like all we're doing is bickering and fighting and not getting anything accomplished, is what we hear. And it probably depends on the certain network you're watching.
Get the money out, and you'll see more people will work together.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, you're a Democrat, and your opponent is a Republican. That's how it works. I guess just how do you, are you more, what do you believe in? I mean, Democrats all don't believe in the same thing, and Republicans don't all believe in the same thing. So I don't look at it that way.
I'm pragmatic, right? But I think we should do things that make the lives of people in Wisconsin better. So I think that whatever we do, we should have that in mind. You know, is this going to be better for the people of the state of Wisconsin. I strongly believe that. I believe investing in public education, our university system. And this was not a partisan thing before. So, I'm a strong defender of public education, and and maybe the other side of the aisle will say that too. But I see them doing things that undermine public education, so I'm going to fight for it. Same as our university system. Okay, here's just something about our university system. Okay, I'm saying this as a Democrat, so really believes in public education, K through doctorate degree or whatever. Okay, UWSP. Pretty good school, you would say, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you know that the people that are working there, for what field they have, what degree they have, and what area it is, they're paid at the 5th percentile nationally. My wife, when she worked there, was on search and screen committees. They would go through, they'd screen all their candidates for hiring. Number one wouldn't take it. They laughed at the salary. 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all laughing at it. So we're not getting the best of the best. So you're not going to have a quality university system, if that continues. One thing we had a good 10-year program in the state of Wisconsin. And in recent years, I'm sorry, and I'm talking from my side of the aisle, but why did you make it worse? You already have poor wages, maybe not at UW-Madison, but at Stevens Point and our other 4-year campuses. Why did you do that? Why did you destroy shared governance? So these were things. That's where the teachers, the students, and the Board of Regents all work together. Well, it might exist, but now it exists in theory, not reality. So that we've had a flight of people. It isn't just every professor that leaves the state. It's our best professors. It's our best researchers. They're all already not being paid well. So when they're disrespected by changing their tenure and their shared governance, they're leaving. I went to a meeting at UWSP. There are 3 top professors. One in biogenetics, and another one in nanotechnology. Another one was a music person. We have to invest in education because it's our future.
Yeah, and we don't want to lose the good ones.
No, and they're exiting. They're going to the University of Minnesota. I have a friend of a friend who works in the chemistry program over there, and they're sucking our best chemistry professors up. We can't let that happen. That's not moving forward, Tom. And I think the Republicans should say the same thing. They should care about that. I'm bringing it up. Does that make me partisan? It wouldn't in the past. So, I'll work with the other side, say, hey, how can we make our public schools the best in the country? How can we make sure that our UW system is the best in the world? And I'll work with them on that. But if they're draining money from the system, they're trying to control what people can study, like they did at UWSP by eliminating humanities courses. Well, I'm going to fight against that, because the humanities are good enough for people that attend Harvard, Yale. They're good enough for people at Stanford, but it's not good enough for our students at UWSP. It bothers me.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to another topic about marijuana. Again, that's in the news. Medical marijuana, and then just legalizing marijuana in general. What's your position on that?
Well, I think it's really dumb to legalize medical marijuana. It's just stupid because it helps so many people. In states where it's legal, they have a 25% less opioid problem.
Wow.
We have the data on it, so it's dumb that we don't do it. So we should do that. Recreational marijuana, I have a big struggle with that. I'm really looking closely at the states that have recreational marijuana, especially Colorado, because they were the first. Now, my main concern is not so much for adults with recreational marijuana. My concern is for adolescents, because I was the drug and alcohol prevention specialist, the AODA coordinator for Nakusa, and we did a program on this during Red Ribbon Week, where we talked about how the brain is changing during adolescence. It's like trimming and making different connections to do math, to think critically, music, whatever it is. Your brain is forming. Your brain grows rapidly. It changes 2 times in life, really rapidly. Once in your first year of life. The second part is during adolescence. So I'm really concerned about adolescents using marijuana. But what they did in the state of Colorado, and I got to put this caveat in there, they had really high use among adolescents in the state of Colorado. So they were already amongst the highest using state for adolescents. But what they did is they put in a really strong educational program into our schools so that kids knew how marijuana affects their brain, just like I told you, just know. You know, so we don't want to mess a person's potential up during adolescence. But I would say this: I think eventually most states are going to legalize it, because you know, here's the other thing about marijuana laws right now. Do you know if you get caught with marijuana once, any small amount, okay, it's a misdemeanor
here in the state?
Yeah. Well, what happens if you get caught twice?
Probably a felony now, is it?
It's a felony, and I mean, literally, it could be, you know, I am 1/3 of a gram. So we're taking guns rights people. Listen to me now. Okay, if you care about guns, we shouldn't be taking away the guns of people that are caught with tiny amounts of marijuana. That's stupid. We're calling them felons. We're taking their vote away. We're locking them up in some cases. We're paying for them to be incarcerated. We're separating them from their families and their ability to support their families. I mean, we're living in the Stone Age when it comes to marijuana laws here. So we should, number one, get anybody in prison for a minor marijuana violation. Let's let them out. Let's get them back to their families. Let's change this thing about the felonies. You know, charge them, you know, until it's legalized. You know, fine them, whatever. Fine them like a parking ticket or something. Don't put it on the record. Now they can't get a job. You know, we talk about the workforce, and there's plenty of people that smoke marijuana that don't get caught, and they're doing a good job. It's the ones that get caught. You know, you might lose your best employee because they tested positive for marijuana. I think we got to move into the future here. So when I'm saying, if we had a really strong program, an educational program, started early in the schools, right through adolescence, let them know that this is not something that you should be doing, and then look at legalization. I think if it came up and it had that caveat to it, that we know we were protecting our adolescents, I would be for it.
Okay.
But I would have to be assured of that.
Okay. All right, great information. Agriculture, important.
Yes, it is.
How do you feel the state's doing in that area, and maybe what's good and what could be improved on?
2017, I'm going to ask you this question.
Okay.
Okay, trivia question.
Uh-oh.
How many farms did we lose?
I really wouldn't know. I'm sorry.
500.
In the state of Wisconsin,
yes,
in 1 year.
And we are on a pace to lose more this year. So when you talk about the true family farms, you talked about a small business, being a small business owner, and how that's good for families.
I think it's great.
I've worked with kids that grew up on the farm, and they are the best workers you can imagine, because they get up with the chickens and they milk the cows, and they know what it means to work, and then to work together with the family. You find a farmer, they can weld, they're carpenters, they can back up. You don't want me backing up a trailer. That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
You know, but they can do it. They can do so many things.
Yeah, jack of all trades.
They're jack of all trades.
Yep.
And you know, okay, I'm going to be partisan again. I'm sorry.
Sure.
But when Scott Walker said, we got to beat California on milk production. So what happened? We got all of these giant concentrated animal feeding operations that have too much manure for the land that they're on. They're polluting the water, and they're putting our small farmers out of business. They get contracts with the processors at a higher dollar per hundredweight. They might get a contract for $18 a hundredweight or $19, where the local farmer's not going to get that from the processor. So we set up a system that pushed our family farmers out of business. So that bothers me. They say, well, we can't go back. It was an inevitable, maybe. But I'm an optimist. I would like to see us try to bring the family farm back again. And I think if we hold some of these concentrated animal feeding operations accountable for the pollution that they do, like in Kewaunee County. Do you know about Kewaunee County?
Oh yeah, I've heard about it.
Okay, so there you got 16 concentrated animal feeding operations, kind of 5 times the amount of cows as people. You got a karst soil, which means it's cracked. Basically, the soil's cracked all the way down to the groundwater. and they're spreading manure on it, and the nitrate levels in their wells is just out of control. And we have to do something about that. I'm not anti-agriculture. I absolutely not. And I know, and the thing is, we have great farmers out there. I've talked to them at the Pete and Will, Castle Rock Lake Stewarts. They try. They don't want to waste nitrates. They don't want to waste phosphate. I'm talking about row croppers here. So they do everything they can because they don't want to spend money. They don't want to waste the nitrogen. But yet, still, like Pete Will has become very polluted with phosphates. And the tri-lakes. But we can do something. We can do something to help farmers. They'll say, don't point a finger at us because you guys add to the problem too, and we do. Look at our one species lawns. How many times are people fertilizing their lawn? They're putting atrazine down on it. They're putting Roundup, kill a dandelion. We gotta watch what we do. But there are some practices that would really help our farmers be more productive and help our environment. No-till agriculture. It takes some machinery to drill holes down to put the seeds in, but that holds the soil in. Another thing we could do is a cover crop. When you put the cover crop down before the corn grows up, let's say, there's something holding the soil down. Also, it's uptaking the nitrates and the phosphates. And then you chop the corn down, and guess what's there? It's the cover crop. So these practices help reduce nitrates in our water and phosphate runoff. Another thing we can do is buffer strips. Between the field and the surface water. And then, and the big farmers do this a lot. It's gotten so technical, so advanced, where they can put down small amounts of fertilizer at a time, so that fertilizer is being uptaken. That helps them. That helps everybody. See, again, I'm going to say, instead of investing $1 billion in Foxconn, let's help our farmers. Now, I feel differently about the big CAFOs. I just think that, it depends where they are. But like in Saratoga, they've been fighting that CAFO there for a good reason. They have sandy soil. So you're going to have manure from 5,200 cows, and you're going to spread it on sandy soil like they did in the town of Armenia, where everybody that lives west of that farm has nitrate levels in their private wells that is, you can't drink the water. We're going to do the same thing down here in the town of Saratoga. I'm sorry, science is available. We all have to be good neighbors. We can't be greedy. And I think greed's behind the problems we have with healthcare, and I think greed is behind the problems we have with some of these big CAFOs. So I support agriculture. I got one bumper sticker on my car, Tom. You know what it says? Family Farm Defender.
Okay.
Justin Escherwood. I don't know if you know who he is. He's out on the Escherwood lateral. He does a really good job. He tries to use all the most sustainable practices, and that helps him, and it helps his neighbors. And a shout out to Nancy Vandermeer, because Nancy and her farm does the same thing, and she's the Republican representative. She's a nice lady. I went Carrie Fay to meet her, but so I guess I'd be in person. But Nancy and her farm have been doing some great practices for years, and I admire that. So.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about tariffs again.
Yeah.
We hear that in the news again with President Trump slapping tariffs, and it's going to affect our farmers. What do you feel about these tariffs? And is there anything you can say in that area? It's beyond.
It's beyond the state level.
Exactly.
But our president is like a bull in a china shop. And sometimes, like they say, even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while. I think some things that he has done with the tariffs, like with NAFTA, I think there's been some positive changes to it. Got to give credit where credit's due. I don't know how big those changes are, but I think there are some positive ones. But on the downside, okay, we have China, who imports, I believe, about 75% of our soybeans. And there's no way to replace that. Europe's picked up some of the slack, but that's a market we could lose. You know, so I talked to a soybean farmer. He's over in Nancy Vandermeer's district, 400 acres. It really hurt him. So, but now I understand that Mexico and Canada, we have a new trade agreement, and it's better for farmers, and I'm glad. You know, I'm happy about that. But yeah, I think we need to be careful. Maybe it's going to work for some in some parts of agriculture. It may not work in others. I think we just need to be a little more careful about, you know, when we're slapping on tariffs, because, you know, you slap it on them and they slap it on you.
Right.
You know, look at Harley Davidson. They moved over to Europe to make motorcycles out of there because of the aluminum and steel tariffs. So I don't think that situation is fixed yet.
Yeah, you know, you try one thing and another thing nails you in the other.
Well,
and
you
so gotta be very careful.
You have to look
do.
before you leap. Measure twice, cut once.
Yeah, that's about it too in today's world. Let's talk a little bit about the minimum wage. We hear it. I just saw something on the news the other day about a protest for $15. I think I don't know if it was in the Milwaukee area or not. But what do you? I don't even know what the minimum wage is at this point. I should, but I don't.
Well, it's because it's out. You could find it in an ancient history book at this time.
Oh.
Because it's $7.25 an hour, and it has been for 10. Okay, let me just say this. The argument is you raise minimum wage, everything goes up. We've heard this over and over again. Minimum wage has been raised in this country 22 times. The sky has never fallen. Minnesota, our neighbors, Minnesota, that have on average a $6,000 a year higher medium household income than Wisconsin, raised the minimum wage to $9.50. They even pay that to their waitresses over there. And I know anybody with a restaurant, their ears are ringing when I say that, because they would have to raise their costs. But in Minnesota, you know, people, I think in general, are happier. They make better wages than we do. You know, Minnesota has higher wages, and you know what? And wages are going up in Wisconsin, but not as quick as Minnesota. Remember your math problems in high school? You know, exponential growth. You know, you get you know, if you have 2.5% growth on an average household income of $45,000, and you have 45 or 50,000 because they're higher than we are, and you got a 5.2% exponential growth, they're going to continue to be ahead of us. And we used to be about the same.
Yeah, and we're not.
We're not. No. And those are because of policies. Okay, what have we done in Wisconsin for wages? We haven't raised the minimum wage. And don't tell me nobody makes it because, and I know you did it, but I pump my gas, and I won't say where it is, but I happen to know, and I know Quick Trip pays more, and you can name places that pay more, and I know it's true. But where I pump my gas, I believe they start the people at minimum wage or maybe $7.50 an hour. You know, and these are adult people. There are tens of thousands of people in the state making minimum. I think our lowest wage workers need a raise, don't you? And here's the other thing that Minnesota did. Okay, not only did they raise the minimum wage, they did not crush the public employee unions. You know, in a lot of small towns, yeah, the teachers had some of the best jobs. So you know, some of the better paying jobs in those communities. So what did you do? You took money away from those teachers to give it to who? With the Weed Act, the agriculture and manufacturing tax credit, which mainly went to rich people. So you sucked money out of our communities, our small towns, and you gave it to rich people. I mean, it's Robin Hood in reverse. Okay, so and then there's the prevailing wage laws. Okay, so prevailing wage means if there is a government project in your town that they find a wage which is appropriate for your community based on other wages, and that's what you got, and that's what you have to pay. That helps our local workers because they get into these government projects, they're paid a living wage. Guess what they do with that money? They spend it in our communities. That has hurt working people. That has hurt our local economies. Their argument is, oh no, because we get a better deal on the cost of the project. No, it's the people that own the construction companies make more money and the workers make less. And then there's right to work for less law. Okay, Minnesota didn't pass that law. Basically, that was nothing more than a union busting law. And when you bust your unions, guess what happens? You're going to have lower wages. You're going to have the safety in the workplace is going to go down, and you're going to lose benefits. So I believe in the right to associate. I believe in the right to collectively bargain. And what we have seen in Wisconsin is that we are losing out against inflation. There's a lot of people that work. Oh yeah, unemployment's great. Yeah, and you can love it so much you can have 2 or 3 jobs. I hear this at the door a lot. It's one of the main things I hear. It's not about jobs. It's about wages. Wisconsin has passed policies that suppress wages. Minnesota hasn't. That's why Minnesotans make more than people in Wisconsin. So I mean, I say this a lot at the door. I will fight for lower health care costs. I will fight for higher wages. I will make sure our public schools continue to be excellent, and I'll make sure your great-great-grandchildren can drink the water.
All right. Well, we have a couple questions left, and
did we hit the 2-hour barrier?
Not yet. We went over the hour, but that's fine with me.
All right.
We're here to educate the voters out there about your platforms and what you believe in. Let's talk a little bit about the educational workforce. We kind of touched, we did touch on it earlier, but let's just elaborate a little bit more. We all hear that the jobs are here, but the people can't do the job. That's what I've been hearing, and we don't have we don't have the right people to do the job here. And what do you? I guess is that something that the state should do, or do you even believe that's true? I guess I want to know your stance on education, educated workforce.
As related to the workforce.
Yeah.
It all starts in the public schools. It starts in kindergarten. We need the most qualified, highly trained teachers that care. And once again, I don't want to be political here, but what's Scott Walker's solution to the teachers' crisis? Make it easier to be a teacher. No, don't do that. And I'll tell you why, because I worked in private schools that hired teachers that weren't certified. They're the ones that had the problem. You know why? Because they didn't learn the classroom management. They didn't take the same psychology classes. They didn't do the little practicums you do as in course of your studies. They didn't do the student teaching, and they had the problem. We don't want to make it easier. So workforce, we have to have the best teachers all the way through high school. And then, guess what? We need the best professors in our university system. Because we want the most highly educated workforce we can have. We have to have these technical programs. Both start with a P, right? But we need them in middle school. We need them in high school. If we don't have the workforce we want, remember what I said before? Interest is based on experience. The money we invest in people now will pay off for our workforce later. We're losing technical education programs all over the state. The graduates from Stout, my high school, Milwaukee Tech, was a pipeline to Stout. And there are a lot of people went there to study secondary technical education. And it's a less of a pipeline now because they drained the kids out of my high school. I just mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I know, it was a stupid thing that happened there. But now, you know what happens now to the kids that graduate from Stout? It's in Menominee, right across the river. They're not coming here because there's no teachers union. The wages are lower. They go there. We don't have a teacher shortage. We have a teacher exit, both K-12 and at our university system. They're leaving the state. So workforce development, and then we need to work, of course, with our technical colleges. And I think we do a pretty good job with that, though Scott Walker's budget in 2011 cut the system by 30%. 30%, not the education governor that he talks about being. So, and I'm just going to throw this in with public education. If we would have froze the funding level at 2010, it's either 2010 or 2011 levels, all the way down to 2019, the state would have spent $3.5 billion more on public education. They're talking about historic investment in public education this year, right? $600,000, $600 million. But guess what? And I hope I was using the right numbers before.
Sure.
Well, was I using millions or thousands? I might have screwed up.
I think you were using millions.
I wasn't. Okay, good. But okay. Anyway, so we have lost $3.5 billion over Scott Walker's time, and in 2019 we will be spending $153 million less than we were in 2010. So there's no historic investment in education. They didn't even put back everything they took out. So when he says he's an education governor, I ain't buying it, and I'm surprised he's not calling himself the environmental governor.
Well, I guess, we've learned what your stance is about it, and we will learn about
from my opponent.
And your opponent too. And
We'll
you were an educator, and it was very important to you.
I was, and I still am.
Yeah, you're still doing it today.
I work with kids that struggle, because everyone can develop. Everyone can develop. And when some of the kids I work with, they're tough behaviorally, but if I can get them past high school, and I can build some confidence in them, instead of sitting in our jails and using our taxpayer dollars, they're going to be paying taxes.
Well, I have one more question.
All right.
And then the last question after that, one more, will be why should voters vote for you? So think about that for a little bit. But I'm going to just backtrack. I do have this question about pollution. We have addressed it a bit with Foxconn, but I want to just address it as a question. Is pollution a big deal in the state of Wisconsin?
Absolutely. Well, we talked about 4% of the wells in Kewaunee County, you can't drink the water. That number is actually going up. We have the same thing over here in Juneau County in the Tarnum, Armenia, but it's not just there. It's happening all over the state. And we're giving permits for more and more of these giant factory farms. We know they pollute. We're turning our backs onto pollution. The people in Kewaunee County have been drinking bottled water for years and have been paying for it. So now I know there's some bills out there saying we're going to help you re-drill your well. We're going to give you a reverse osmosis system. But here's the thing. If your well is polluted at 27, I think it's milligrams per liter of nitrates or higher, the reverse osmosis isn't going to get you down below the 10 milligrams per liter. So it doesn't work. But maybe with a water softener system, maybe combined, you can do that. Okay, when you re-drill a well, sounds good, right? You have a casing that goes through, a layer of, compacted sand or rock or whatever. And guess what? The nitrates just follow it on down. So your well is going to be better for a while. The other thing that people need to realize is your best water isn't on the bottom. It isn't down deep, because that's where your heavy metals are. So those aren't solutions. Maybe temporarily. The solution is the agricultural practices I told you about. And I think we can help farmers do that. We need to incentivize them. And I know there's what they call producer-led initiatives, and those are great. Because it's the farmers, and we've got one here out at Mill Creek in Portage County, where the farmers got together and made a lot of these practices and make changes. And there's people in Portage County. I mentioned Justin Escherwood. There's a lot of people, a lot of farmers that deeply care. They care, And some of the other ones that are just kind of stuck in their ways, because that's the way their great-grandfather did it. And that's the way their father did it, and that's the way they're doing it. We need to help them. We need to be more aggressive in helping them. And also we need to, and this is beyond agriculture now. That's not point source pollution, agriculture. But we need polluters to pay for cleanup. Now, I don't want to sock it to all the farmers. I think what we should do is, like I said, help them. If we help them and they're able to adapt these better practices, the amount of phosphates will go down. Nitrates in wells takes a little longer, but I think it can happen over time. Phosphates will be depleted after time, but we can't keep putting them in our lakes. So, and we can't turn back air quality laws like they're allowing Foxconn to do. That's part of the package too. I think that's wrong. And you know what? They'll say, oh, well, all these regulations hurt business. You know what? When you come up with technologies to manufacture in a cleaner way, a less polluting way, guess what you did? You just created another business. You had people work on it, so they developed. We have engineers working on it, and then in the end, guess what? We did it. You know, remember the 70s when the Japanese were coming out with smaller cars, and we were way behind. All of a sudden, gas shut up, and then we're in the lurch because the Japanese had to market on the small cars when gas shot up. You know, the rest of the world is not standing still. They're trying to solve their pollution problems too. We should be on the cutting edge of it. So yeah, pollution is a huge problem. I just went out on Lake Petenwell not too long ago with Petenwell Castle Rock Lake Stewards, and we had a presentation by Scott Provost. He's with the DNR. He's an expert on the river. He showed us where all the phosphates were coming along in on the river, and he showed us pictures of how the algae is so bad in some places it washes up on the shore and it's 3 and 4 inches thick. And the same thing, maybe not that thick, but it's happening at our tri-lakes. You know how much property value that we have in the town of Rome on the tri-lakes, and how much we have on Lake Petenwell? That property value is going down. There's the tourism industry. It's the second largest, or tied for #1 in the state. There's people at the lure. They rent pontoon boats, right?
Yep.
People used to just come up, rent the pontoon boats. Know what they do now? They call. How's the algae problem? So what are you going to say if you own the lure? You know, puts you in a bad spot. Yeah, well, our harbors, you know, like really nasty, and don't let your dogs in because they're going to die. So you know, and this is not a problem that happened overnight, and it happened during Democratic administrations and Republican administrations. But in the last 8 years, it's been a free-for-all. We have let polluters run wild. So we definitely need to get a handle on it.
Okay.
And it's for future generations. The Native Americans have a philosophy. They do everything looking 7 generations ahead. And that's what we need to do too. And they have another thing that I learned from Native Americans. The planet doesn't need us. We need the planet.
Oh yeah.
We could all get wiped out and the earth would just clean itself up. You know, but we need the planet. As we grow in population, we need to learn to do things more sustainable. Like we have to have a vision for green energy in this state. You know, that's connected with pollution too. I mean, for every coal-fired power plant we shut down, and we do wind or we do solar, we have less mercury in the air, less contaminants in the lungs of our children. Oh. And here's the other thing: we don't have to buy coal from Kentucky or West Virginia. We got our own sun. We got our own wind right here. Why are we investing in Kentucky and West Virginia? Invest in Wisconsin. Let's go greener, and that'll do a lot for pollution. In Chile, they looked at energy plants. They looked at coal. They looked at nuclear, hydro. A lot of solar, because they have in the desert, you know, they have a lot of wind there too. They decided against coal-fired plants. Why? Because they pollute, you know. And so, we can tackle it. I have such a positive vision of the future. You know, that's what I tell my kids in counseling. You know, the secret is the secret to being successful is to have a positive vision of your future. You don't even know how exactly you're going to get there, but you have to envision it. You know, how do you feel? What kind of person are? How are you really related to others? And in the sense of our planet, what does it look like? You know, is our air clean? Is our water clean? Can you drink the water in our wells? And you don't have to know how to get there right away. You have to have the vision that this is what you want. Move towards it.
All right. All right. Well, we've had a good conversation with you, and hopefully the voters out there are going to get to know more about you and what you believe, your beliefs, and where you want to take the position if you were to be elected. Well, let's ask that one question: why should voters vote for you? And I'm going to actually, since I'm a one-man band here today, I'm turn the cameras right over to you here when it switches here in just a second.
Yeah, well, for one thing, and I got beat in the last election. I got 43.5% of the vote, and which is pretty good for Democrats during the 2016 election. I knocked on a whole lot of doors. I think a lot more than my opponent did. And I decided to run again. It's a difficult thing. I gave up a lot of time that I could be working, but I can't stand by when our water's being polluted. I can't stand by while public education is under attack. I can't stand by while we're defunding our universities system, while our students are buried in debt and our state refuses to do anything about it. I can't stand by while our small businesses struggle and we help Foxconn. I can't stand by while our highways are full of scot holes and our county roads, our small town roads are turning to gravel. And Wisconsin, when I think about my state, before the Scott Walker area, and maybe even before that, I saw us as a leader in the country. Workers' compensation started here. I believe the idea of Social Security started here. We were a state all states across the United States looked to for environmental conservation. We were a leader in that. Now our best, just like our professors, our best scientists at the DNR, we're losing them, many of them to Minnesota. I can't let that happen. And so that's why I'm running. I'm passionate about this. I don't care about the money. Honestly, I'll get paid $51,000 a year. That'll be fantastic for me. 50 cents a mile mileage, $138 a day per diem when I'm down in Madison. Probably really good health care, though I have health care. I am really running because I care about everyday people, and I think what's happened to our state, it's not the voices of ordinary people that are being heard in the state, it's the big donors. I'm sick of it. I want the money out, and I've got to bring this up about my opponent. In the last election between the American Federation for Children, which is Betsy DeVos used to chair, and which is a bunch of billionaires out to privatize our public schools, and the Jobs First Coalition, both run by disgraced Scott Jensen, who was convicted of some kind of campaign finance problem or something else having to do with the Republican caucuses. They spent $117,000 against me. I found that funny because that's what my house was assessed at, and I was a nobody. And so, what they're going to do is they're going to send you 15 flyers, 16 flyers. Oh, Gorski wants to raise your taxes. Oh, Gorski doesn't want you to have a choice as far as the voucher program. I want you guys to have a choice. I want you to decide whether or not you want to pay for it or not. It's going to cost $1 billion a year. And so if you want to pay for it, let's have a binding referendum. I don't know if we could do that, but we should. Let's let the people of Wisconsin decide whether they want to pay to have children go to religious schools. We're already paying for public schools. But here's the other thing, and I'm going to be real honest with you here. I've talked to county board members. I've talked to people in leadership, and I don't want to name the names of mayors, but and I'm trying not to name names here. But I've heard the same thing over and over again. Scott Krug says he's coming. He doesn't show up. I'll mention one organization in particular, the firefighters. They had a dedication of their memorial. I think that's what it was, some ceremony there. Scott was supposed to be the keynote speaker. He didn't show up, and he didn't call. I talked to people that work in local government here. They meet with Scott, and Scott's supposed to get back to him on this, and this, and he doesn't do it. I mean, as a school counselor, if I said I was going to call a parent, I would call that parent. And you know what? If I didn't call that parent, it would get to my superintendent. And if that happened a couple times, guess what? I would be fired. I think if you don't show, I don't care if you're a Democrat, I don't care if you're a Republican, a Libertarian, an Independent. If you don't show up, you don't deserve the job. You can't keep a job at McDonald's if you don't show up. And that's Scott's pattern. So I'll do so much better than that. I'm running because I want to be engaged with our communities. I will spend so much more time visiting community organizations, our schools, our county board members, our people that work in city government. I'll be a much more engaged representative. And I said this last time and I mean it, I work with kids that struggle, and I hate to leave them because I love the job that I'm doing, and I know that I'm helping them. And when I see kids from Nakusa that I worked with 20 years ago, I don't even know who they are sometimes. Mr. Gorski, and they give me a big hug, and I love that. But I will not take another job. I will be a full-time accessible state representative, and that's what we need. I think Scott he said he was only going to run for 2 terms. Now he's running for 5. Now 5, not 4, 5. And he's getting a lot of money from Betsy DeVos, the Jobs First Coalition, other groups that all want something from him, and guess he delivers to them. I want to deliver for the people of the 72nd, not some out-of-state lobbying group that wants to privatize our schools to cash in on our kids. And maybe I'm sounding kind of serious, but really I'm somebody with a sense of humor. I'm very approachable. I don't think I'm all that. I don't think I'm above anybody else. I'm just an ordinary person, and I'm doing this, which is kind of extraordinary in a way, because maybe if I have any quality, I'm brave, and I'm not afraid to make little mistakes along the way. Like I always said, Gorski, love yourself while you're getting better, and you'll always get to try again. So anyway, get out there and vote for me. It's really time for a change. Scott has been around too long. He's too comfortable. You need some new blood in there, and I'm all fired up. I'm ready to work with people, and I hope I win this time, because I really think our district needs this change. Thank you.